Hi everyone, my name is Cindy and I'm an Australian homeschooler. Today I'm going to run through a few ways to teach multi-digit multiplication. When I was at school we were only taught one way, and if you didn't understand it you basically missed that part of learning, and eventually you progressed to a high enough level that allowed you to use a calculator and you never had to think about it again. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. There are actually many ways you can present this to your student, and I think it's actually good to learn more than one way, because then it really solidifies this conceptually and your student is then not just learning procedure. So the first one I'll show you is the traditional long multiplication method, which is the one we all learnt in school. So I'm sure we'll all be familiar with this one. I'm going to use 63 times 47 as an example for all of the methods. So we'll keep that there. 63 times 47. So we do the columns. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 6 is 42. Plus 2 is 44. And get rid of this. Now we times by the 4. And we know this is actually 40 and not 4. So we're going to add a 0 here. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 6 is 24. Plus 1 is 25. Then we're going to add these together. 1, 6, 9, 2. I actually think there are better methods to teach multiplication before moving on to this traditional method. Yes, this is probably the quickest way and the one your student will use as a go-to when they've mastered the concept. But if you have a student who is new to multiplication, there are other methods that more clearly and more simply demonstrate the multiplication of different place values. So I'm going to show you the grid method now. And a lot of primary schools actually teach this to their students now. So still using this as an example, I'm going to draw a grid. And I'm going to break these numbers into their tens and ones. So 63 becomes 60 and 3. 47 becomes 40 and 7. So now these boxes you just fill in by multiplying the corresponding row and column. So 60 times 40, 2,400. 40 times 3, 120. 60 times 7, 420. 3 times 7 is 21. And then now we add all those together. Zoop. 1, 6, 9, and 2. So you see here we get the same answer as before. Another way of using partial products is the area method. This one is really great for visual learners, so I'll show you that one now. So to find an area of a rectangle, we know you go length times width. I'm actually going to break this up into smaller rectangles within this rectangle. So instead of 63 times 47, I'm going to break that up into 60 and 3 and 40 and 7. So now we've got 4 rectangles that we can find the area for, and then we add them all together. So 60 times 40, 2,400. 40 times 3, 120. 60 times 7, 420. 7 times 3 is 21. So you can see we have the same numbers as before to all add together. And this is great news, we have the same answer, so we're on the right track. And then a step towards the traditional long multiplication method is to set it out the same way, but still using partial products in each row. So I'll show you that one now. So you write it the same way as you do with the traditional method. And you go 7 times 3, but instead of going 21, I'm going to write both numbers down here. Then I go 7 times 6, and I know this actually is 60, so that equals 420. 40 times 3 is 120. 40 times 60 is 2,400. And again, we add those together, 1, 6, 9, 2, and we get the same answer. Fantastic. There's also the distributive property way of doing it, and I'm not sure who this would be useful for unless you know algebra. And if you know algebra, I suspect you already know how to multiply, but I'm going to include it here because this is taught in Beast Academy Level 4. If you remember my video about Beast Academy, it's a curriculum for gifted maths students. So if this applies to your child, feel free to click on the link for more information about that program. So distributive property is the concept that multiplication distributes over addition. So for example, if you write this formally, a times b plus c equals ab plus ac. Oh, whoops. AC. Similarly, if you had a plus b times c plus d, you get AC plus AD plus BC plus BD. So this is what we're going to use today. So 63, we can split that up into 60 plus 3. 47, we can split that up into 40 plus 7. And then you just follow this format. So 60 times 40, 2,400. 60 times 7, 420. 3 times 40, 120. 3 times 7 is 21. So you add all those together and you get the same number as before. Now I'll cover two more novel ways that you can teach your student how to do multiplication. So one is lattice multiplication, and this uses squares like this, divided into half, and you just put your tens in here and your ones in here. So if you end up with the number, say 93, you're going to write it in here like this. So for this, I'm going to draw my lattice. And again, I'm breaking these up into tens and ones. So 63 times 47. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 3 is 12. 6 times 7 is 42. 7 times 3 is 21. And when you're going to add them all together, you're going to add them on the diagonal. So these are your ones, your tens, your hundreds, and your thousands. So you end up with 1, 6, 9, 2. And that's the same answer we got with all the other methods. So I think it's fairly clear from this what the prerequisites are for multi-digit multiplication. Number 1, your student needs to know their multiplication facts, otherwise known as their times tables. And number 2, your student needs to understand place value. That is, for example, what is the difference between 2 times 2 and 2 times 20? So if they're not comfortable with those two things, I would go back and do some groundwork before moving on to multiplication. But there is one way, if your child is not completely comfortable with their times tables, that you can teach them long multiplication. And that is the chopstick method. So for the chopstick method, you're going to break up the tens and the ones into lines. So for 63, you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 47, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and these are not quite long enough. Add a little bit there. And when you're tallying up your answer, you're going to take the diagonal again. So these are going to be your ones. These are going to be your tens. These are going to be your hundreds. And you just count how many times these lines intersect. So this is a great method to teach your child if they're not quite comfortable with their times tables. So they can literally count each individual one. Or if they do know their times tables, you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 1, 2, 3. That's 21. And what you do with 21 is you bring your 20 up to here because you're carrying the 2. So I'll just add this here so we know to add that on to our tally once we count that. So 21, I'll put the 1 here. So you'll just have to trust me that together it makes 46. So put the 6 here, I'm going to add another 4 here. And so this plus this is going to be 29. And that's the same answer as we got with all the other methods. So that's it, that's 7 ways to teach multiplication. Did you know all these? Which one is your favorite? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please comment below. Thanks for watching.